So it has gotten to my notice that a lot of you guys don't know how to make knotless braids properly. I know you're going to say, but I know how to make knotless braid. Listen, what a lot of you are doing is standing Ghana weaving. And if you know what Ghana weaving is, then I think you should picture what I'm talking about and what you're doing, then you will know that I'm right. Okay. And no, I'm not saying this for you to be afraid. Okay. So I've taken up my time to make this video for people like you who haven't gotten their knotless braid right yet. Okay. So to get the perfect knotless braids, you need to work in sections, and that is what I'm doing on your screen right now. I made a part from the back of one of our ears to meet the other ear at the other end. And after straightening your part, it's not a straight line, no. The head is not straight. So you have to make like a C curve, okay? Your part should look like something like this. And if it is not looking like that, go back in and straighten it out and make sure it's giving that curve. After you've had that, you will now determine how many rows you want to have at that back of the ear that you just mapped out. Me, I wanted 3 rows, and that is what I just showed you now. If you want 4 rows, you will make it in a way that 4 rows are going to fit that part. That will be your foundation for the rest of the braid. Do you understand? Like I said earlier, I wanted 3 rows at the back over here, which is at the nape area of the head. I've taken out my first row and I'm just cleaning it out to make sure it is neat. Remember, clean part makes all the difference. Repeat after me. Clean part makes all the what? The difference. Okay? I wanted 4 braids at the first row. Remember that this first row will determine how the rest of the braids or how the sizes of the braids are going to be. Okay, so if your first row is 4 braids, your next row is supposed to be 5 braids. Your next row after that 5 braids is supposed to be 6 braids. Okay, so if you want extra small, then your first row is going to determine if your braids are going to be extra small or not. Do you understand that? Okay. Moving on, starting your knotless braids. This is where a lot of people make mistakes. They end up doing standing Ghana weaving instead of knotless braids proper. Okay. So let me take you guys along with what I'm doing right now on your screen. As you can see, the nape area of our hair is very, very thin. Our hair naturally is thin, but the nape area, they are a bit short. Okay. So to work with that, or also giving you the knotless effect that you want, there are about 2 or 3 ways to start your knotless braids so that it gives you that beautiful knotless look without causing damage to your client's hair. If your client's hair is shorter as you're seeing on your screen, okay? I'm already showing the first one, and that is for the part where our hair is a bit long. I'll show another one, so pay keen attention to your screen. Now let me show you the second method I'm talking about. You take 2 strands mini extension, and then you start as if you're braiding regular box braids. Okay, but instead of splitting the hair into 3, you split it into 2. What you're doing now is so that you'll be able to grip the hair properly. You braid like 2 times before you start adding extension. Okay, it is still going to give you that knotless look. It's not going to be regular box braids, but we are trying to protect her hair at the same time making sure she has the perfect braids. Okay, so that is what I did for this first row of the hair that you're seeing. Now, to get your part right, a lot of you make mistakes. Your knotless braids don't come out right because of your pattern. Okay, so you're working at the back section and you already had in mind that you're going to have 3 rows at the back of her head, which is at this first section that we section out. Okay, so your braids need to be the same length and breadth. So make sure that the 3 rows that you have, they are equal sizes, okay? So I did a trick of using my comb as a guide. You can either use your comb or use your thumb, or just eyeball it. Me, I normally eyeball it, okay? For a much more easier route, you can decide to split the back into 3 sections before you just start braiding, okay? Okay. So now to start the brick layering pattern, we are still doing pattern and braid, okay? You see that the middle, which is where the braid is, the middle of the bottom row is where I am starting my pattern from. A lot of you find it hard to understand. Basically, what I did for the brick method is use the bottom row as a guide for the top row, okay? So you start parting from the middle of the braid, like what you're seeing on your screen, okay? Making sure the next braid at the top falls in between 2 braids at the bottom. All those of you that make braids and the braids will be like they are in a straight line, I don't want to see it after this video, okay? I already showed you one way to make your knotless braids. This is another way. I have gotten to the part where her hair is not like a little bit thick. So I braided 1, 2, 3, 4 before I started adding the extension. But kindly note that you don't have to pack all the extension you're using in your knotless braid at once. No. Knotless braids are like standing stitch braids or standing Ghana weaving, yeah, but not like the olden days Ghana weaving where your extension will be shown everywhere. No. Okay. So it's meant to look as if you did not add extension on your hair from the root. That is why it is knotless. So have that in mind when making your knotless braids. Okay. If you add your extension and your extension is showing, is giving this person added extension from the tip. You understand what I'm saying? Losing it, take it out and do it again. Okay? Okay. So you braid 1, 2, 3, and then you add your first extension. Mind you, depending on the size you're going for, use the size of extension equally. I'm going for like a normal size, not small, but a normal size. So I went, my first extension was small. Okay, then you start adding for thickness. If you're going for much more thicker look, then you keep on adding. But when you add to the thickness, remember that our hair also adds to the thickness of the braid. So when you add 1, 2, 3, after braiding past our hair length, then you add again to make the top the same size with where our hair has passed. I don't know how to explain that or put that in words. So I'm sorry if I sound a bit confusing, okay? As you can see on your screen right now, I made a little bit of mistake. Nobody's going to beat you if you make a mistake and redo it. The bad thing is if you make a mistake and leave it, that is where the problem lies, okay? So what happened there was that the second row that I did, I found out that it was quite big. Two braids there was like too big. So instead of two braids, I made them three. And if you look properly, the kind of fall beautifully after I corrected them, okay? So it is one thing to make a mistake, it's another thing for you to correct it. If you don't correct it, it will remain a mistake, okay? So make sure you correct your mistake whenever you're making braid, okay? Nobody is perfect, right? Right. So now we've moved to the front of the ear. You section part you section out the front of the ear, and then you make a straight line at the front, at the middle of her head. I did not do everything at once because I don't want to overwhelm you with the whole process. So that's why I handle the back section first. If you handle the back section first and you handle it properly, trust me, that is like the foundation of full head of braid. The rest of your braids should come out really, really well. The only issue you will have is um trying to get the same sizes or the same numbers of braids on both sides of the head, and that is where this technique comes in, okay? And another issue most people have is actually trying to get the middle of the head, you understand? So this technique is the easiest. What I'm doing right now is trying to create a map of like the number of braids I want at the front. When you are making a braid, or once when somebody give you an inspo of a braid, what I normally do is I'll count the number of rows that I can see at the front of the inspo you sent to me. Okay? Now, the inspo my client sent to me had 8 rows at the front. So automatically the braids I'm going to be making for her should have 8 rows. When I mean 8 rows, I'm not saying like the full front, or I mean one sections, which is like after you part the middle, one part is 8 rows, the other part is 8 rows. So if you count everything together, we have 16 rows at the front. Okay, so that is why I made a straight line down the middle to determine to make sure that okay, that's the middle of our head. And then I made 8 rows on each this side. I did the other side off camera. So the rows I made at the front now will be my guide to making sure that everything I am doing is in place and my knotless braids come out looking flawless and beautiful. Okay, so with all my explanation, I hope that this video makes sense to you. And like always, what we are doing is we are using the row before the row you're working on as a guide. So for the row that we already worked on before, you will look at it and then you make your first cutting at the middle of the braid underneath the row you're working on immediately, making sure that the braid that you want to make right now falls in between two braids at the bottom row. Hope that makes sense. I think it makes sense. Okay, so you follow that the same step till you're done with the full head of hair using the front rows that you just made, which is the 8th row that you made at the front now, as a guide to finish the entire hair following the same process. Now, the two, I think 2 or 3 types of or how to start your knotless braid that I showed earlier can be used for all types of hair. If the hair is thin, you saw the way I did it before at the beginning, you use that. If the hair is thick or the hair gives you the size of braid that you want, then by all means braid 1, 2, 3 before you start adding extension. Okay, so I just realized now that I've been trying to make you guys understand this particular tutorial so much that I forgot to introduce myself or welcome you guys back to the channel. So if you're new here, you're welcome, and if you're a returning subscriber, you're definitely welcome as well. I am Precious and this is the Braid Lounge. I teach you guys braids, styles, and techniques and different ways to make your braid life better. Okay, so if you've not subscribed, kindly do so, and if you've not given this video a thumbs up, you should kindly do so as well. If you follow all the technique that I gave in this video and you listen thoroughly to what I explained and you watch the entire video, your knotless braid should look like this. Okay, And trust me, if your knotless braid look like this, then you're good. You're good. Until the next one. Bye bye.